Global War 36 enthusiast here with a post-game analysis of Operation Skyfall. It's turn 19. I haven't processed USA's turn. I don't think they got enough to get Triumph of Capitalism right now. America plus Great Britain is 120, and they need to have 126 or 127. I don't think they're going to capture 7 on America's turn. So I believe the Axis have 5 victory cities and 3 strategic objectives. So they have 8 victory points. The Comintern have 2 victory cities and then 4 more victory points. Just about to get a 5th one. So they have 6 points on the cusp of 7. The Axis were just about to pick up a 9th one here with the Spanish Civil War. So 8 to 6, and then I have the Allies as 5 on the cusp of 6. 8, 6, 5. And then Boston Bruce just rolled the variable turn end, and it was a 4. So the game does end at the end of turn 19. Let's look at the map and talk about some things that happened this game. Very interesting game and well fought. On turn 2, the CCP succeeded at spreading influence in Singhai, such a great territory to try to recruit, especially on the second turn. A lot of times someone might try to recruit this warlord for the first turn and then switch over to Singhai. Or if you succeed, maybe you go for Suyan, but on turn 2, Hambone did succeed with Singhai, but unfortunately they only rolled a 1 for their peacetime income increase. In Spain, the Axis were very aggressive in lend-leasing. Germany sent, in the early part of the war, Germany sent 22 and Italy sent 17 for a total of 39 just in the early part. USSR sent 1/3 of that, 13. I followed Boston Bruce's idea of the air transport so that I could take over these territories down here and increase the recruitment roll. I pretty consistently succeeded with my recruitment roll. With the Spanish, later on, Italy lend-leased a fighter and an air base and an anti-aircraft gun, so there was a lot of money poured into Spain. The idea with my airbase was to have 3 fighters that could scramble to the adjacent territories and make it harder for the Allies to hit a bunch of territories on that first turn and potentially surround me on the second turn. By me being able to scramble 3 fighters, that the Allies would have had to choose, which territories, maybe 1 or 2 territories that they could hit, and then it would be unlikely they would be able to surround me. On turn 18, I attacked into Catalonia. I was thinking I would take 1 air hit because he had an anti-aircraft artillery plus a fighter, so I thought one of those 2 would get a hit, and I was worried he'd get 2. Then I would have sent another fighter with the Italians, but anyway, he didn't even hit, so I got really lucky there, and that's kind of a common theme to Skyfall. Incredible Axis luck. There were a couple battles where we were unlucky, but just consistently, turn after turn, like Italy would take turns in Russia and have like maybe 3 or 4 attacks, and the Russians might have, say, 3 militia and infantry, and all 4 of those dice would miss, and that just kept consistently happening. So lots of luck in our favor. But why didn't I attack on turn 19 into Catalonia? It's because I really couldn't. It was going to take a lot of commitment. I might have had to fly a bunch of aircraft down to Madrid to hold it. I might have had to rapid build a fortification in Madrid to hold it. I just wanted to have the option whenever the Axis needed it of taking that victory point, but not take it too early and then be trapped into a quagmire where I'm having to defend it and put a lot of attention there. So I was just holding that in our back pocket, but it almost lost us the game on turn 17. Okay, so let's go back to China. On turn 4, Japan declared war on China, kind of the standard, and Silk really was aggressive in China. He attacked, took over Shenxi. I believe he made an attack against the CCP into Qinghai. I don't know if I have that written down. I don't remember what turn that was. And he was beaten up on the KMT. So Silk really wanted to make sure that China was not contested. It was his. He was very aggressive there. And the war went well for him in China. Let's go over to Germany. I have that on turn 6. I kind of surprised the Allies and attacked. I declared war on Poland, Great Britain, France. I went into England. I was planning to take out southern England because it was kind of weakly defended, and the French had a French fighter and a French medium bomber on map in A21. So by destroying southern England, I could kill those planes as France was falling. But it was Silk's suggestion that I also take out northern England, which I did. So that was a good little add-on. It was great working with Silk. He had a lot of good ideas. I'm a particularly conservative player, which probably was maddening to him. He's a really aggressive player. So I think together we were a good combination. And we really have at least I'm starting to feel like I'm getting a good understanding of the rules. Silk really has a good understanding of the rules too. So it was nice being on his team. On turn 8, Germany declared war on Russia, which was very early and probably surprised Hambone. So I really wanted the surprise attack, and the reason that I declared war with Germany on turn 8, it was on Russia's turn. Right at the end of Russia's turn, Germany declared war on them. That was going to that had a couple things. It was going to force Russia to spend their big buy on turn 9 before they had accumulated even more money. And it's because Italy had done an interesting thing where they built a fleet carrier. And I had my fleet carrier here in M7. I had 2 transports in M4 here. And in Tobruk, I had 3 Marines and an infantry. So I could bring this force through the Turkish Straits and threaten Transcaucasia. So once I saw Russia's disposition in Transcaucasia, they weren't going to be able to get more troops there. Germany declared war even before Italy's turn, because this way I would definitely get my surprise attack against Russia. Then on Italy's 8th turn, I was going to move. I picked up my units here in Tobruk and then moved the 2 transports with 3 Marines and a infantry into M7, and I contacted Hambone. Hey, I'm going to move through, or I want to move through the Turkish Straits. Since we're doing a YouTube video, you should get the opportunity to know about that. And we had an interesting conversation because I was like, I do not think you should declare war, but if you do, I can't move through the Turkish Straits. I thought he would let me through the Turkish Straits, and then what I thought was going to happen was I would take out Transcaucasia with the Italians. Then on the German turn, I had an air transport loaded up, put a unit there in Transcaucasia so that Turkey would align to Germany, and then since I had a unit in Turkey, then the next turn Iraq would align to Germany, and then eventually I would have attacked into southern Iran. So I had this Mediterranean strategy teed up that I was really excited about. But Hambone realized that even though it was going to be bad long term, in the short term, he really couldn't handle losing Transcaucasia and all that money, and then having Turkey align. So he did declare war, and that gave Italy the very peculiar diplomatic immunity of this game, which was a big boon to the Axis later, because the Italians could lock down or just really build heavily here in Abyssinia and Eritrea. I put my air base in Italian Somaliland, but in hindsight, I wish I had built it in Eritrea, or maybe in Abyssinia is another good place for the air base. But anyway, the Free French were building up, and I don't know if they would have attacked this turn or maybe next turn, but they really were building up, putting a lot of pressure on me and requiring me to bring a lot of air units down to defend. But because Italy was in the war, but they didn't declare war, the Allies couldn't declare war on them, but the Italians could collect their 2 victory points, one for Rome and one for the Africa Orientale. Can't remember what that Africa Italiano Orientale, I think it is. So that's the Italian situation. I know Silk kept wanting Italy to declare war and pounce on the British, and there were a lot of opportunities to do so, but I really think I made the right choice. If you ever get this situation with Italy, I think you should milk it for all it's worth, because it's really nice to be able to not have to defend Italy and be safe. You can just send a lot of units into Russia, which is what I did. So when it was Russia's turn on turn 9 for their big buy, they bought 28 militia, 15 infantry, 2 airbornes, and 2 T-34s. Hambone did a great job defending Russia. There was a lot of back and forth, and Hambone was in a difficult situation because I could do a whole bunch of cannon burner attacks. There was a really clever attack that Silk suggested on turn 11. I was actually looking at going up into Leningrad or investing Leningrad, and then in the next turn hitting Leningrad. I have a large force in Smolensk. But he saw that I could take a risky attack into Orel-Kursk, where I basically sacrificed a tactical bomber in attacking Orel-Kursk. But if I just took it with one land unit, then all the troops in Smolensk could go 1-2 and hit Donetsk-Kuban, where Hambone had moved a minor factory and had a pretty good hunk of forces. But I was able to, I think I outnumbered him 2-1, and I crushed his little army in Donetsk-Kuban, which put him back time-wise. And then half of that force kept moving down. It moved into North Caucasia, then I moved into Transcaucasia. That's where on turn 12, because I was going to take over Transcaucasia on turn 12, or I think it was on turn 13, I would have taken Transcaucasia. The Russians declared war on the British and on Turkey, and so that aligned all the units over to the British, so the Germans didn't get it. But this force continued on down into Iran, so that then I aligned Iraq, and then I took over southern Iran to get that money. And I did get diced in Transcaucasia. That was the most unlucky battle that I had. But those forces did pretty well and earned a lot of income, and importantly, really delayed. There's this force here that on turn 19 is here. Forget what that territory is called. Kara Deniz. And it's because they went down here chasing me, and then they finally turned around realizing, hey, I got to get to Istanbul. That's worth a victory point. So that kind of, those forces that I sent off into the desert to die, as Hambone put it, really acquitted themselves well, and I got a lot of value out of them, even though it was basically a suicide mission. Okay, let's go look over in Europe. On turn 10, the Allies saw that the Russians were in trouble because both Italy and Germany were at war with them. Italy was doing these can opener type attacks. And so I thought it was really, really smart of Panzer J to invade Normandy. I just kept wanting to make a huge commitment to build like a killing force against Russia, but I couldn't because I was a large proportion of my build was being dragged over into Paris. I had to build infantry and push them over there. Silk really wanted me to build a large contingent of mechanized infantry, but all my mechs were really committed to Russia for their high mobility, and I was building infantry in towards France because I was trying to be as cost efficient as possible. You know, an infantry defending in Paris, as long as it's not surrounded, is 6 on the first turn with the fortification, then 5 after that, and it only costs 3, whereas an advanced mech costs 4 and defends at 5. Also, the infantry would get a target select. So this is why I was building infantry, and I just kept pouring them in. One other compliment I want to have for Panzer J on turn 10 was he put his the ships that would give a militia. I think it was 6 heavy cruisers and 3 light carriers here in Normandy, and that just made it so I could not counterattack. That was really smart. One thing I might have done is added in like 2 destroyers more, or just 2 extra ships that you didn't really care about, because Silk saw that, well, I was already going to attack and do a port attack here, but Silk suggested that if I bombed this port into oblivion, that then the fighters that were doing the port attack wouldn't face any inherent AA. That I tip my hat to Silk. You know, you read these rules, but it's another thing to actually implement that strategy. Japan lend-leased Germany a strategic bomber. I very much appreciate that, Silk. And then I used both a strategic bomber and a medium bomber to strategic bomb the major shipyard, because if I only used the strategic bomber, there was a 16% chance that I would only do 4 damage or less, and that would have been just a complete debacle, because then all my fighters would have faced, all 5 fighters would have faced inherent AA. So that's why I sent the medium bomber too. And I did do 5 points of damage. We'll come back to why this is 4 in a second, but then my 4 fighters come in. I should have had on average 2.5 hits, and I got 4 hits. And he did not hit me with his AA gun, so that was an amazingly lucky turn. Later on, I had 4 bombing missions with my strategic bomber. I had 2 strategic bombers, and I lost. I got shot down on 2 of them. So the rest of the time, my strategic bombing was unlucky, but in this particular one, it was really lucky. So imagine if there had been a couple destroyers here, maybe I would say, God, do I really want to go in and have my fighters take a shot at hitting his ships and just kill 2 destroyers, or maybe 2 destroyers and a light carrier? I probably wouldn't have wanted to go in. So that was this battle here. Then when it was their turn, when it was Panzer J's turn, he only repaired 1 point of damage, just enough to turn the inherent AA back on. But was it really worth it for me to go and bomb it again for 1 point of damage and risk getting shot by an AA? So I thought that was clever to just repair 1 point of damage. Okay, so let's talk about what happened here. Was we kind of had a stalemate. I just kept building up so much infantry, and they kept shuttling over so much infantry. I was in a fortification. I had some AA. It just neither one of us had enough to kill the other one. But later in the game, as I kept falling back from Hambone's forces, I didn't want to have a battle with Hambone where I remember another game I played recently, and the German player fell back to Warsaw and had maybe like 30 units, and the Soviet player had like maybe 60 units and just killed Warsaw. I don't see the value in that. So when I was in the situation where I think I had 24 units in Slovakia and Hambone could hit me with 40 units, even though I was in Mountain, I still said, I don't think this is worth it. And I fell back. Maybe I wasn't in Slovakia. I think I was in Donoslavsky, and I fell back to Western Germany. So by preserving my force with the Germans, what ended up happening was I had a very large mechanized force here, in Alsace-Lorraine, and this is on the beginning of turn 19, and I was able to attack Normandy on turn 19. I had 88 units attacking 59 units, and when you have a huge advantage like that, where you're losing infantry attacking at 2, and he's losing infantry defending at 4, it just snowballs, you know? So Normandy was wiped out. He lost, I think, 3 heavy armor, 9 medium armor, 7 self-propelled, and even a strategic rocket. So that was a pretty big battle, and basically ensured Paris was safe. I was worried that he would counterattack and just see like the best chance he ever has to take Paris might be this turn. He could have flown all his British aircraft basically in a suicide mission, try to hurt me, and then come in with the American aircraft, because they could have also come down. I think they could have made it from northern Algeria, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all he has to do on the British turn is take, you know, some other territory that's not very well defended to have a place to land with the Americans. But I think having the 11 AA guns and the fighter made it just very, very low probability that they could do it. So I think that the Allies' best chance was to keep hoping that the game end die roll kept rolling, and then they were just doing so well economically. So that's what's going on here. Let's see, what else is there anything else I want to talk about? Oh, yes, there's 2 other things I really want to compliment. I very much want to compliment Boston Bruce's attack on Midway on turn 17. We, as the Axis, had let our guard down, and we didn't. We could have. It could have been possible to just screen off the Americans with a little picket line of destroyers. You know, say put a destroyer P-30, P-24, P, what is that, 13, and just make it so that America couldn't reach Midway with their transports. But we left Midway open, and Boston Bruce saw that if he took that he could have America pull into the lead. I think maybe they had Nanking, or maybe KMT took Nanking. Yeah, they had a bunch of troops in Hunan, and they moved into Nanking. I think Silk wanted Boston Bruce to move into Nanking so that they would be surrounded and be at -1, but it was a very risky gamble because the Allies had more VPs than the Axis on turn 17, and there was a 16% chance or 17% chance that they could have won the game. So I tip my hat to Boston Bruce in a really bad situation for the Allies where the odds were against them. He almost snatched out a victory. That's a sign of a really great player, to have that kind of tenacity and creativity. We made a mistake and he capitalized. I feel guilty about us winning, because in a way Boston Bruce deserved to win it for the Allies. That was a really brilliant move. One other thing I want to talk about is this attack into I-7. Awesome. It was great that Silk wiped out the Commonwealth Navy when given the opportunity. Silk had such a dominant lead in capital ships with Kido Butai, but he did get, 4 of his heavy battleships damaged. And it was really clever of the Allies in this last turn. They bombed, this dockyard, major dockyard, has already been bombed. They might have bombed it again, and I think they also bombed these naval transports on America's turn, or on KMT's turn. So all Japan's transports are pinned, and these heavy battleships are going to have to take 2 turns to get back to some dockyard where they could repair. It is possible that the Japanese could take out Ceylon, but it will just get bombed again. So really, it was going to be 3 turns before those 8 capital ship points were going to be involved. And America is really starting to build up their naval assets. I haven't processed America's turn, but I really was happy to see the game end on turn 19 because we were in trouble. I want to compliment all my opponents. Panzer J, you were in a bad spot. You lost Northern England and Southern England. London was against the wall. You came back from that. You put a lot of pressure on Italy here with the Free French. You're fighting with one arm tied behind your back, but I think it was just a matter of time before the French were going to be able to take that point away from them. You did a great job here in taking back Iran for the British. Your defense of Calcutta was really stiff and kept Silk from taking it. That Silk had been wanting to take Calcutta, so tip my hat to you. And then Boss and Bruce, I was just saying what a great job you did. You had to balance both sides. I like your Portugal setup here to put a threat on Spain. Your Air Force is monstrous. The Pacific, you're juggling over here as well. And then KMT, you really did a good job. I forget if it was turn 16 where you lunged out, but you set yourself up to almost win the game on turn 17. Salute. Hambone, you did a great job. One thing I might have done is consider railing a major factory over here to Siberia, but you have taken northern Manchuria. The Axis will never be able to hold access to resources. Your CCP is coming back, even though you started, you were knocked down to just, I think, one territory at one point. You're building yourself back up and slowly taking over land zones and increasing your recruitment role. I think time was on your side here. The one other lucky battle that we had was, as the Axis, was Primorsky Krai. That was crazy. Silk had heavy armor facing a tank destroyer, and I think that tank destroyer missed every time. Everything missed in Primorsky Krai. That was, again, crazy luck. So I really think that I was in trouble as far as victory points because Russia was going to take over Istanbul. There was no way I was going to be able to take back Warsaw or Central Romania. I did have sneaky ideas that I would use my 2 air transports and a whole bunch of fighters from Western Germany and hit Helsinki, but Hambone was on top of that. He was sending AA guns in there and building up his infantry, so I really didn't have a chance to do that. I liked what you did with your subs, constantly bleeding me. I just couldn't get radar, and you just kept taking money away from me turn after turn. And I think you had a nice mobile army here. I want to compliment you on menacing Germany. You had forces, I think they were in Lubelski, and they were threatening to go to Eastern Germany. You had a bunch of T-34s, Katyushkas, huge amounts of advanced mechanized infantry. And so for 2 turns, I built massive amounts of militia to ensure Germany's safety. And I do think Berlin is safe, Western Germany's safe, but then on this turn, on turn 19, you swung down your forces into Slovakia. And I was worried that your next move, you would go into Austria. Austria is 2 away from Berlin, but it's also adjacent to northern Italy. So I was in a bad position. My plan was to bring back my forces from Normandy to Alsace-Lorraine. That way they could go either direction. They can go up towards Germany if that's where you're going. They can move down towards northern Italy if need be. Those are my noble opponents. Silk, kudos to you. I know it's frustrating to play with me because I am a nervous Nelly. I'm constantly worried that we've put ourselves in a position to win the game and I'm going to drop the ball and lose the game. It's kind of like what almost happened to us with Boston Bruce. I'm constantly paranoid about, that's the most painful thing in a game like this where you've played for a couple months is that you take your eye off the prize and someone like Boston Bruce pounces. So I played very, very conservatively. I think it paid off. I didn't lose Paris, even despite a lot of Allied pressure. I didn't get Italy into the war with the Allies, even though there were a lot of tempting targets. So I think the proof is in the pudding. It paid off, and I really appreciate your generosity in lend-leasing that strategic bomber, and your idea to bomb Normandy's shipyard into oblivion. That was a brilliant idea. Your cannon opener attack idea in Orel Kursk, awesome. Very creative player. And you did a great job with Japan. You kept America out until turn 12. America didn't get in the war until turn 12. And I think that really hurt. The Allies didn't have that income from America. So I think it was a very well coordinated game for the Axis. Pleasure playing with you. We will be starting another game, and I'm going to tear down the board, clean up the map, and I'll return in Operation Casino Royale.